Velkommen til Golftræner Talks, og velkommen til år 2025. Hele teamet i Dansk Golfakademi håber, at du havde et dejligt nytår, og at du er klar til at spille en hel masse dejlige runder golf her i det nye år. Vi starter året ud med et brag af en episode her i Golftræner Talks. Vi har nemlig fået en helt speciel gæst med i studiet. Han hedder Dr. Sasho MacKenzie. Han har en Ph.D. inden for biomekanik. Og det vil altså sige, at han ved en hulens masse om, hvordan kroppen den fungerer i forskellige sammenhæng. Sasho han har skrevet forskellige bøger om golfsvinget, og han har også udgivet et hav af videnskabelige artikler om forskellige emner inden for golfspillet, både potning, fuld sving og golfudstyr også. Det vi skal snakke om i dag, det er et system, der hedder The Stack System. Og det er noget, som Dr. Sasho MacKenzie og hans kollega har udarbejdet i fællesskab. Og hele systemet, det går ud på én ting. Det går simpelthen ud på, hvordan vi bedst muligt træner os til at få mere fart i golfkøllen. Og hvis vi kan svinge golfkøllen hurtigere, jamen så kan vi slå længere slag. Og vi ved jo, baseret på data, at længere slag det er en kæmpe fordel, når vi spiller ude på golfbanen. Og hvis du ikke kender The Stack System i forvejen, så kan jeg fortælle, at det er et unikt træningsredskab. Det består af sådan en golfkølleagtig ting med noget vægt ude i enden. Så består der en lille radar, som måler, hvor hurtigt man svinger golfkøllen. Og så består der af en app på ens telefon. De tre ting, de arbejder sammen. Og så har Sasho MacKenzie her og hans partner, Marty Jerton, som han hedder, de har altså udarbejdet et fantastisk system, der guider golfspillerne i en række træningsseancer hen over en given periode. Og de har altså allerede hjulpet mange tusind golfspillere. Og her der snakker vi altså både begyndere, vi snakker normale amatørgolfspillere, og vi snakker nogle af de allerbedste spillere i verden. Fitzpatrick, som vandt US Open, han har brugt det her system her, og mange andre turspillere har også brugt det. Og det de alle sammen oplever, det er, at deres sving-hastighed, den stiger markant, efter de kører de her træningsprogrammer igennem. Og det er lige præcis det, som vi skal prøve at snakke om i dag. Vi skal prøve at snakke om The Stack System, hvordan det kan hjælpe dig ved at køre de her træningsseancer her, til garanteret at få mere fart i golfkøllen, som jo så vil give dig mere længde. Og derudover så kommer vi også ind på nogle andre emner. Vi kommer ind blandt andet ind på, hvordan vi også kan bruge det system til at forbedre vores potning, og også hvordan det i fremtiden kommer til at kunne hjælpe med noget wedge-spil. Og Sasho han vil simpelthen hjælpe os med at uddanne os i, hvordan det her system det fungerer, hvordan vi kan bruge det, og ikke mindst, hvordan du kan få bedst mulig glæde af det. Og jeg har simpelthen glædet mig helt vildt meget til den episode her, og det der sker nu her, det er, at nu switcher jeg over til den samtale, som jeg havde med Sasho. Det foregik online. Han sad over i USA i hans studie, og jeg sad så herhjemme i Danmark her. Så vi kører selvfølgelig på en internetforbindelse, så derfor hvis lyden ikke er helt så fantastisk, som den plejer, så ved I lige hvorfor. Derudover så skal jeg også sige, at podcasten den foregår på engelsk, fordi han kommer fra USA, så derfor så var det selvfølgelig meget naturligt, at vi kørte der på engelsk. Så det håber jeg, at det er okay for jer, der lytter med her. Så hvis du sidder hjemme, så bare sæt dig rigtig godt til rette. Det kan også være, at du er på vej ud på golfbanen. Måske er du på vej hjem fra træning. Måske du bare sidder en stille stund og hygger dig. Den her episode her, den er spækket med gode indsigter, fantastisk inspiration, der vil komme til at gøre en kæmpe forskel for dit golfspil. Lad os komme i gang, og så rigtig god fornøjelse med det.
Maybe you could start by giving a little introduction to our listeners about who you are and what you're doing, just a short one.
Sure. My name is Dr. Sasho MacKenzie. I'm a sports biomekanist by trade. I'm a prof at a small university in Nova Scotia, Canada called St. Francis Xavier University. I've been working in the golf space for the last 25 years. My PhD thesis was on customizing shafts to a player's swing.
Yeah.
I do a lot of consulting with Ping, with FootJoy, work with a lot of tour players and tour coaches, and I guess most recently co-founded the Stack System with my partner, Marty Jerton. So I'm really interested in everything that goes on to help a player increase their speed and really trying to improve golf performance overall for golfers.
Awesome. Super. Thank you so much. Then the listeners know a little bit about who you are. But the topic of today is the Stack System. And I was thinking maybe for the listeners that haven't heard about the Stack System, maybe you could give a short introduction to what it is this system does and how it can help them.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Stack System is a piece of hardware. It's a single club. It has 30 different weight options, so it comes with 5 weights that you can put on in different combinations to give you 30 options. It pairs with an app, and basically what we've tried to do in the most efficient way possible, so requires the least amount of time and effort from the golfer to increase your club head speed. And I think we've successfully done that. We've got just over 50,000 users.
Wow.
Close to 100 tour players are actively using it because we can track all that in the app.
Of course, yeah.
Most famously, Matt Fitzpatrick. I was working with him on his swing biomechanics, but gave him the stack, and he's seen a ton of speed en route to his win at the U.S. Open. So basically, it's a piece of hardware that pairs with an app and does a really good job at making golfers faster.
Nice. And how did you came up with this idea?
Well, my background, I've a couple of separate lives. One of them that I led, I spent a lot of time in track and field. I competed in track and field at university, was a track coach at university for about 10 years. And I looked at the approaches that were taken for increasing speed. Track has a ton of science behind it. The objectives are very simple. And so it's really easy to work out what the better training methods are and what aren't. So I took some of the concepts of overload and overspeed training, so maybe towing a sled versus being pulled by something so you can run faster, and apply them to golf. There is other overspeed training products, but the philosophy that we take is much different. So some other products, maybe you have 3 options. That wouldn't fit with our philosophy, where we're looking to target within a mile per hour what we'd like for you to experience from an overspeed perspective, and then the same for an overload perspective. So I saw a big opportunity to apply overload and overspeed training to golf in a more scientific way, and also we were the first to launch an app in the space. We still have the best app in my opinion. We've really gamified the training experience. So you don't have to do any thinking. We measure you before you start the program, which allows us to recommend the best program, and you just kind of blindly follow along. We tell you when to work out, how to work out. There's rest timers that pop up. We track every swing you make. So we're able to cheer for you when you set a record, which is very motivating. And we give you a grit score as you go along. It's a number that can get up to 100% if you perfectly adhere to the programming recommendations. We're seeing lots of success, and we've added a ton of features. We're continually adding new features. It's as Marty likes to say, we're kind of like a Tesla, where the car you bought 3 years ago keeps getting better and better through software upgrades. Yeah. So we've got now over 60 videos on the best ways that you can best swing mechanics you can use to increase your club head speed. So we encourage people to go into our learning library and figure out what swing moves and feels work best for them while they're stacking.
Okay, awesome. And just to clarify for the listeners, the overspeed and the overload, so that is, the overload is swinging with something heavier than the actual golf club?
Yeah, that's right. That's a simple way to think of it. But we do it to a very refined level. Not to get too into the weeds, but there's 3 things that you can vary. The overall weight of the club you could make heavier. Yeah. You could move the balance point, so where you'd put a finger under the club so it would balance, you can move that further from the hands, or you can increase the property of an object that's the resistance to rotational motion. It's called moment of inertia. So by changing the weight on the end, we manipulate those 3 things to give either an overload experience. You'll swing it a little bit slower, but experience slightly higher forces. Yeah. The loads you feel when you swing. Or you can put less weight on, and you'll experience an overspeed stimulus, where you'll swing it faster than you would your driver. Yeah.
So, and then the program uses both overspeed and overload in order to develop the increase.
That's right, and we look at a baseline session to start off. Okay. So Nikolai will have you swing your driver in a baseline, and then various stack loadings, some heavier, some lighter in your driver, and we get a force velocity profile for you, which dictates the main structure of the program. To start off, you might need based on that information, you might need more overspeed training or you might need more overload training. And so we'll package that into a program. And then as you go through the program, the workouts change dynamically based on your progress. So the app will make up your next workout. So I wouldn't know what your second workout is going to look like until after you've completed your first workout.
Okay, so every workout is basically based on previous data that the app has.
That's right. That's how I function in track and field. That's how you'd function in in a weightlifting environment. If you're trying to do 8 reps of bench press, and that's the target, and you can do that with 200 pounds, maybe you get 10 reps. Well, then the next workout, you're going to add on more weight, so you stay within that 8 rep range. So it's the same philosophy.
Okay.
We adapt the workouts based on your changing abilities.
Okay. And so when we train speed, can we say that it's kind of like going to the gym and lifting weights to develop more muscle mass, or is that a too simplified version of looking at it?
Yeah, in a way, it's a decent analogy. We're not trying to have muscle mass.
No.
We're trying to do things to make you faster, but there will be long-term changes in your muscle characteristics. More so, there will be improvements in your coordination to enable you to swing faster, and even other changes in your nervous system will be able to send signals to your muscles to have them turn on faster, but also send signals to your muscles to have them turn off quicker. Both are important in golf swing. But in general, a bigger, take a step back, it's the same principle. It's like going to the gym. You do a workout, you rest a few days, you do another workout, your body adapts, and you hit the ball further.
All right. That's super cool. Okay, so let's say that we have some of our listeners and they are interested in knowing how do they start with this. So they would, of course, buy the bundle of the stack actual club, and then there's a radar that measures the speed, and then they will download the app. And then you said with something with a baseline, some baseline numbers?
Yeah, the app guides you through everything. So we get some initial profile information, your height, your weight, your driver length, those kind of things. And then we run you through a baseline, and it guides you step by step. It'll say, hey, let's make sure you're warmed up. So there's a built-in in-app warm-up, which a lot of users really enjoy.
Okay, it's built in already.
Built in already. It takes about 15 minutes. You follow along. And I put a lot of time into picking specific exercises. You don't need any special equipment.
Okay.
You don't have to, if you're outside and the ground's wet, no worries. You don't have to touch the ground. It's all, you're able to do it all from standing, or, you do some squatting and some lunging actions. You can use the stack for support, but it gives you a nice full body warm up.
Is that mainly to prevent injuries, or is it to prepare your body to be faster, or is that kind of the same?
Probably equally to prevent injury, but even if we take my 14-year-old, very low chance that he's going to get injured. They seem like they can wake up and break into a sprint. But we really want people able to swing their fastest in their very first set, their first rep. So it's like track and field sprinting. When I was coaching, we might have a 45-minute warm up to do a 15-minute workout, because the very first rep, you want to be able to perform your best. Now, 45 minutes it won't take you that long to get ready to swing the golf club, but we do want you sweating. We want your temperature elevated. We want you to get ready to go. And we even have a certify your warm-up feature. So after you do the warm-up, you can certify your warm-up, and we have you swing a weight that's predetermined at a couple of speeds. And we'll tell you, hey, if you can swing it at that speed, you're good to go.
Okay.
So that's good. So then and we base it on your previous workouts.
Yeah.
Right? So we know Nikolai, hey, he swung the 195-gram stack at 100 miles an hour in his last workout. So he should get, a couple of swings in a row near 100. And if 100 was the number, then it would be, we need 2 swings in a row at least 96.
Okay.
So that says, hey, you're ready to go.
Yeah.
And the baseline session pops up. There's some videos that play in sequence that will tell you, hey, Nikolai, we're going to have you swing your driver right now. Gives you directions on how to use the radar, how to swing your driver. So that baseline driver speed gives us something to compare to. Hey, are we getting faster? So you'll complete the program, do a progress check that's identical to the baseline, so we can see what kind of progress you've made. And then during the baseline and the progress check, rest timers guide you through. After your first set with the driver, a screen pops up, shows you exactly what weights to load on for your next set for the stack, and everything is, we've got some pretty tight guardrails. You just kind of follow along, and it's like having a personal trainer guide you through workout and testing.
Okay, that's really cool. And how many times a week, or is that also based on the data, or how many times a week and for how long period will the player needs to run these programs in order to actually see something?
Yeah, that's a great question. 95% of our users get recommended what's called the foundation program first. Yeah. And it's 18 sessions. And that usually takes about 6 weeks, 6 to 7 weeks. Okay. And after you work out, the app provides a time window for you to complete your next workout.
Okay.
And that's to maintain your grit score at 100%. But it's a long window. So if I work out on Monday evening, the earliest the app will recommend me to work out is 2 days later on Wednesday evening. Okay. But I could work out on Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday without losing any grit. Okay. And we give that variability, that variation there, because we don't know what else is going on in your life. No. Maybe you're working out 4 times a week in the gym. Maybe you have a tournament. Maybe life is just busy. Maybe you didn't sleep well. So we have a window where you can sneak that in. I really like taking at least 2 full days off. So for me, a Monday, Thursday, Sunday, okay, and then Wednesday. Right, I kind of follow that. Take 2 days off. If you want more structure, then you can certainly pick 2 days a week. And if you're feeling great and getting a lot of rest, maybe you're retired and your whole focus is on getting faster. Yeah. Then you certainly can go many weeks in a row doing a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Yeah. So we have that flexibility, and the app guides you, makes recommendations for when you should work out. Okay.
And for how long a period would you need to do this in order to see the increases? Is that just slowly going to come from like the first week, or does it take some time?
Yeah, some people will, when they're using a radar and they're trying different things out in their swing, and some folks can see very quick gains because just through self-exploration and figuring out what swing mechanics work best for them. Yeah. They were casting, they were staying on their back foot, and they can kind of, as they're swinging and learning, they get this immediate feedback. They can see very quick improvements. Okay. Others, if we're looking at changes in the nervous system and the muscular system, it's okay to not expect to see too many changes till after the program. The full 6 weeks is up, 18 sessions. Training with the stack system really needs to be thought of as a long-term process, a long-term goal. Yeah. This is, even if the speed is gained, it's something you need to stick with in order to maintain that speed. Yeah. So
it's not just something you do for 2-3 weeks and then you have extra speed and then you think you have that for the rest of your life.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. And so, is there any certain age groups where you see better or worse result, or does this apply for both, kids and also elder people, or how does that work?
Yeah, it applies to everybody. Okay. So we have we're over 30 million tracked swings. Wow. From 50,000 users from the ages of 6 to 90. Okay. And so we get to see, hey, how all of these age groups do when they do the stack. So we certainly see improvements in speed beyond the effective age, over the course of an entire lifespan. The greatest gains, probably because there's more potential, is in the range, from say 25 to 40.
Okay.
But we do track our top 5,000 stackers, who have gained the most speed lifetime. And within that group of the top 5,000, there's about 800 folks over the age of 60. Wow. And certainly we've seen people in their 80s gain 5 miles per hour in their driver's speed. So if you go from, 75 to 80 miles an hour, you're finding close to 15 yards. That's a big difference.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, that's really interesting. So it's basically for everybody.
Yeah, it's for everybody. As long as it's a training program.
Yeah.
It's not, if you and I don't mind saying this, that it's not if you're not a serious golfer. It doesn't matter what you shoot. By serious, I mean, hey, I play a couple times a week. I'm willing to practice for at least an hour a week. I want to improve. Then the stack's for you. If you're someone that doesn't practice, doesn't want to practice, they just want to show up on Saturday and play, one round of golf a week. Yeah. The stack might not be for you. It's a training program. It requires, a little bit of effort, no more than, an hour a week to see the speed gains. But you do have to put the time in.
Yeah, put the time and effort into it. Okay, so this is also for me personally, because I'm also curious. So how much do you see the day-to-day speed, change depending on how well you feel in your body, your energy level? If you just went to the gym yesterday, do you see then you are slow? How much can the day-to-day speed actually change? Because I think a lot of people sometimes, and also when I teach, then suddenly they're 3 miles per hour slower one day, and then the next day they're suddenly back up to normal speed, and the technique looks really much the same.
I'd say 95% of people should expect a 3% variation in speed from day to day.
Okay,
but it could be as high as 5%. If everything conspires against you or for you. So if you're swinging at 100 miles an hour, then fully expect that one session could be 97. And hey, also fully expect that you could be feeling everything lines up and you swing at 103. But then the next session you could drop back down to 100 or go from 97 back up to 100.
Yeah.
There could also be some more extremes. There's so many factors that are sensitive to, that our speed is sensitive to. Some of them are built into the training. So we have different phases in the program. Some phases the volume increases, right? So you may not be fully recovered, and we don't want you 100% recovered all the time.
Okay.
Then we'd never see these additive gains. So maybe you're only 90% recovered. Even though you've taken a couple of days off, we're not back to where we started. So you might just be a little bit sore. Sore is not the right word. A little bit fatigued. We'll say not recovered from the previous workout. That could affect your speed. But changing your training time of day. So if you're used to training mid-afternoon after you've had an espresso after lunch and it's warm out, hey, that can be good for you. Then, hey, you got to squeeze in a morning workout before breakfast. Well, that can be 3%.
Okay.
Temperature has a massive impact.
Okay.
The amount of sleep you get, massive impact. Hey, did you just run a recreational half marathon on the weekend?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So there are lots of things that can influence your speed sensitivity, but know that if you're continually training, your underlying speed fitness will be improving, whether it manifests itself that day, that particular session. There's a lot of factors.
Yeah, that makes sense. Super cool. Then I have another question, because I think a lot of listeners, when they think about speed gains and stuff, they always, or a lot of also my students, they're worried about the technique. Is that gonna ruin their swing technique? And now they're working on all of these new things. What's gonna happen to all of those things if they suddenly just start trying to generate speed. Do you see that a lot of speed training usually, makes the technique worse, or is just stay the same, or how do you see that?
Usually improves.
Okay.
Certainly there are people who say, there's been an undesirable change. But I would say they probably haven't listened to me on a podcast like this.
Yeah.
So I've got a lot of thoughts on this.
Yeah.
Let me start with this one. Let's say that you are, using a 58-degree wedge. That's what you use around the green most of the time.
Yeah.
And so you spend 2 hours. This is an example I give to tour players. You spend 2 hours working on a bunker shot, and the bunker shot requires you to hit, a couple of inches behind the ball. Maybe you have the ball a little bit further up in your stance. Your swing plane is maybe a little flatter, whatever it is for this particular technique.
Yeah.
And hey, you nail it. You get it down. The coach is happy. Your last 10 shots are all within a foot of the hole. And then you go have some lunch. You come back and you say, I'm going to work on some low 30-yard spinners. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You grab your 58, dust off the sand. You don't expect to all of a sudden not be able to hit that shot, which has a completely different technique. You're never practicing your bunker shots thinking, oh no, my low spinner is going to be completely messed up now.
Okay.
And those two techniques with the same club are very different.
Yes, indeed.
And some people are concerned about, well, it weighs different. It's going to influence my timing. Well, you're not going to find two clubs that are have bigger differences in weight than your 58-degree wedge that you might hit a full shot with versus your driver that you hit a full shot with. Those are very different swings. Yeah. You might spend equal time practicing them, but they don't necessarily, make you have negative progress of one or the other. Certainly, if you quickly switch, hit 3 drivers, hit 3 full 58-degree wedges, there might be some issues switching, but that's golf.
Yeah.
And there's, usually no long-term effect. So I'll say that. Mm-hmm. And then, I'd also like to say that everybody who is using the stack, I like to think is somewhere on a continuum from I'm going to focus mostly on speed, a little bit on technique, or I'm going to have a high focus on my technique while I'm training for speed. Mm-hmm. Okay. If you are a beginning golfer, your handicap is in the high 20s, maybe you're a junior that's just getting into golf, then these folks can have a very high focus on technique while they're stacking. My kids, for various reasons, all have other swing mechanic thoughts when they're stacking. For juniors, it's an excellent opportunity to work on repeatability of setup and changes in grip, as an example. So, if you have a junior that has a really strong grip and their bottom hand is really wrapped under the club, and maybe every once in a while they struggle with the duck hook, okay? But it's a very comfortable feeling. They like, and you say, while they're hitting balls, you say, hey, let's weaken your trail hand grip a little bit. And it feels uncomfortable, and they get a bad result, But you're like, hey, that's okay. It's going to take some shots. That's tough to convince that good junior or a junior that's starting to have some success that this new grip is going to be better for you long term. Yeah. I'm sure I know you've been there. I can tell by the way you're smiling, right? What a great opportunity to have them work on their grip while they're speed training, because you don't, if that grip subtly changes the way the face goes through impact or where the low point, they don't have this negative feedback from ball flight. Yep. They're just thinking, okay, check my grip and swing with a high level of effort, right? And then next thing you know, after 4 or 5 stack sessions, when they go in the tee to hit their driver, now it's just normal. This is the way they place their hand, and it's a good improvement. It's excellent for working on ball position. So if you have my 8-year-old, draw the chalk outline on the indoor gym floor. That's what I use. A little chalk outline around both feet. Yep. A little circle where the ball is. He gets in, gets his setup position, gets his pressure in the right locations, gets his body posture right, checks his grip, makes a swing for maximum effort. Steps out, waits for the rest timer, steps in, checks everything out, makes his swing. Or it could even be, working on an in-to-out path. So if you're a high handicapper with a slice, there's absolutely no reason why you can't be thinking about, some draw swing mechanics while you're doing that. Could be that your coach has identified that you're having trouble staying on your back foot. Well, hey, let's make sure, you have a little vision of Scotty Scheffler in your mind, and you're making sure you're shifting towards a target with every stack swing. So, if your absolute maximum swing speed is, say, 110 miles an hour, but you're a high handicap golfer, have lots of things to work on. That's okay if your stack swings are down around 107 or 108. You're sacrificing a couple miles per hour, but you're still speed training. It's still much faster than you normally swing, but you're ingraining some positive mechanics. And this is usually where all the tour players I work with kind of sit, somewhere in that area. Yeah. It's not long drive, all out, full ballistic, don't care what I'm doing with the club. Now, usually for most of the tour players I work with, we're working on speed mechanics, and when they do incorporate these mechanics, their speed goes up. So there's usually some positive reinforcement there. Yeah. And then you have players on the other end of the continuum that they might be a retired PGA Tour player, that on the Champions Tour, or a former really low amateur golfer, but now they're 65. They haven't missed a fairway since 2004. They're carrying their driver 210 yards. These folks just need to really think about swinging the stick fast. Very little thought about mechanics, and just, okay, let's loosen up and let's really see if we can find some more club head speed. But everybody's somewhere on that spectrum.
That makes good sense. Really, really good points. They're super interesting to hear. Just one thing that popped in my mind. You can do this from home, right? Just for the listeners to, you don't need to be on the golf course.
No. I'd say the vast majority of our users are, in their basement, in their backyard. The stack is hybrid length. Yep. So, it can be used in a lot of areas that you can't even swing your driver.
Okay. But that's a really good point, I think, for a lot of people with maybe not too much time in their daily life, that they can actually just do it at home instead of having to go to the golf course. Yep. That's really cool. So I was thinking that I've heard also that this system can be used for more than just speed training.
Yeah.
I know that Nikki, my good colleague, he's using the putting module. And then I also heard talk about that you were starting to work on some wedge stuff.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah? Can you tell a little bit about that?
Sure. Putting has been out now for a couple of years, and usage has been steadily growing. It's a great app.
So how exactly does that work?
Right. So it stems from, I've done a lot of research in putting. A lot of my research on putter design with ping is, come into this, and I've published, a few papers in scientific journals looking at what matters the most in a putting stroke. What is under the control of the golfer that most influences the outcome of the putt? And I don't want to get into the weeds. You can ask me some questions if you want, but basically the two most important things are green reading and putter head speed. Variability in particular. Face angle plays a large role as well, but these two things, green reading and putter head speed control, are extremely important. And that's within what a golfers usually mess up, right? We got a putt. Why are you missing this putt? So why green reading? Well, if a tour player came into my lab and I gave them an 8-foot putt, with 3 or 4 inches of break, they had to aim outside the hole. They're going to sink that thing 95% of the time. Okay. You go out in a course. Well, we have the PGA Tour stats. They're only sinking about 50% of those. Well, okay. Where's that 45%? Right.
What happened?
What happened? And it's green reading, So you could work on your green reading abilities specifically. Mm-hmm. Maybe you learn how to use something like aim point, but what will get you a long way is exposing yourself to different putts, as many different putts as you can in practice, and then also having a conscious effort in noting what you're screwing up on. Am I overreading? Am I misreading the speed? And also in trying to improve your speed control, the key is also seeing a lot of different putts. So you hit putts of different length, and you note, did you hit that too fast, too slow? So what we've designed is in the putting app. It comes free with stack putting. You can also get a separate subscription just to putting if you want. But if you get speed, you get putting.
Okay.
We have 3 modes. The Premier mode will give you 18 holes. Okay, so you basically walk out to any practice green that has a little bit of slope and the ability to hit putts up to 30 feet in length. And we tell you, hey, hole 1 will pop up on the app. Hole 1, 10 feet, downhill left to right. So you kind of look for a free hole in the putting green, find that 10-footer that's downhill left to right. You hit the putt, and then we have this really simple interface for you to tell the app what happened. Mm-hmm. Did you misread the speed? Did you misread the line? Did you launch it too fast or too slow, left or right? A few buttons. It's really quite intuitive. Takes a couple of seconds. You finish out the hole. Maybe you 2-putted. Maybe you tell it you 3-putted. Then it'll say, hey, hole 2, 17 feet, straight uphill. Whatever it is, you go through it, and then we give you this really insightful summary, and we track all your stats over time. Mm-hmm. We also track your strokes gain performance while you're playing, so it's kind of gamified. We'll be like, hey, you're about to beat your best performance in terms of this, strokes gain score. You can make it relative to your specific handicap. Mm-hmm. So if you're a tour player, great, compare yourself to other tour players. But if you're a 10 handicapper, compare yourself to other 10 handicappers. And we do a really good job of telling you, if there are systematic issues with your putting. Do you tend to hit putts that are uphill too slow? Maybe you tend to hit right to left putts. You launch them too far left. Maybe you're always misreading putts of a certain direction. And that's all clearly available in the app. Mm-hmm. We also have a non-course mode that is the same as Premier, but instead of the app telling you what your putt is, mm-hmm. you tell the app what your first putt is in every green. So you hit the first green, you get up there, you're like, okay, I got 20 feet downhill left to right. You make some notes in your scorecard. You don't have to enter it while you're playing, mm-hmm. And then you can enter it after. And then we have a creative mode where you can create any type of practice session you want mm-hmm. On a putting course. So that works really well for me indoors. I've got a green with limited distances and breaks, so I can set up specifically what putts I want to practice. Maybe you only have a putting mat. You can do a ladder from 6 feet, 10 feet, 14 feet, whatever it is. And probably the coolest, there's a lot of cool features. One of the coolest features is we have a statistical comparison. Mm-hmm. So a lot of players wonder, I wonder if I'm better left-hand low. I wonder mm-hmm. if I'm better with this ping answer 4 versus the answer 2. Maybe I should play a mallet or more of a toe hang. Mm-hmm. Well, before every session, whether it's Premier or on course, you can tag what you're doing. So you can, tag a certain technique you're using, tag a type of putter. And then after completing a number of sessions with both variables, you can then just hit statistical comparison, and it will tell you. It will run a legitimate. I teach quantitative research methods. I put in some legitimate statistical analysis. You just have to hit the button, and we'll tell you statistically how much better off you are with a mallet versus a blade, or with maybe left-hand low versus a regular technique. And you don't have. It just happens in the background. All you have to do is take 2 seconds before you play to set those tags. Putting is awesome. And we have a ton of tour players using it for that very reason. They want to know if they should switch putters, switch techniques. Yeah. Do they have a miss tendency, a bias in some way? Yeah. Okay.
That's really cool. That's a lot of features, and I haven't heard about all of them. So that's really cool. So many options there.
We just scratched the surface.
Yeah, okay. That's really cool. And then I also heard something about wedge play.
Yeah. So, you need a radar or some device to measure speed with the stack system. So we developed our own radar, stack radar. Yeah. And we thought, if people are investing in a radar, how can we get the most out of this? They have it for speed training, but we'd like them to be able to use it for other features. So, it's not a TrackMan. It's very low price point, one of the lowest price point radars, but it does connect directly to the Stack app. Okay. And it's very good at measuring ball speed. So what we found through extensive testing, comparing to radar devices like TrackMan, is that we are very good at estimating carry distance up to about 140 yards.
Okay.
Carry distance is primarily a function of ball speed, and we're usually within 1 mile per hour of TrackMan on ball speed.
Okay. So
we thought, okay, we're really good at this in this range. Let's create a wedge mode. And so we're targeting. Hopefully, we keep adding features, but right now we're looking at February 1. That's going to be released in the app, and I've really put a lot of thought into gamifying your ability to hit shots from 30 yards up to 140 yards. And we've got 35 different challenge levels. We've got a premier mode in that where you'll be able to tell it, hey, how much time do you have to practice? And we'll curate the practice based on what you need. We got all sorts of cool insights. It's pretty fun. So for relatively inexpensive radar, we're getting a lot out of it. We can really enhance it if you pair it with some intelligence software.
Wow, that's really cool as well. Really cool.
Yeah.
Can do a lot of things that system.
Yeah, absolutely. We're about maximizing golf improvement.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. That's really amazing. Okay, is there anything other interesting things that you would like to add to tell about, or have we covered a lot of the things?
I think Nikolai, we've pretty much covered everything. I really think that if you're a serious golfer, probably speed is a skill that you should be training. Yeah. Unless you're already swinging it. Probably if you're already on the course swinging at 122, 23 miles per hour, you've probably got some room to grow. And that's based on lots of evidence to say that improving your club head speed is actually more beneficial for the amateur than it is for the tour player. And tour players are all, jumping on the bandwagon. They could, because it's very clear. You see someone like Fitzpatrick, who wins the U.S. Open, predominantly had that opportunity because he got faster. Yeah. There's most of the best golfers in the world seem to be separating themselves by having a minimum level of speed. Schauffele, saw a big increase in speed, and that was, very helpful to him winning majors. Bryson, before he jumped over to live, that huge increase in speed certainly helped him secure a U.S. Open. And so it's very clear on the tour at the best levels, but statistically, it's even more important at the amateur level. You have more to gain from an increase in speed than a tour player does. Yeah. So it really should just be one of the first things you start to look at if you're like, okay, in 2025, I'm going to be a better golfer. What can I do? You can get faster. Yeah. You should take a look at the stack system.
That makes good sense. And let's say you were to give one tip for a regular golfer about speed, maybe not using the stack system, but just a general tip about speed, clubhead speed.
Yeah. I'll give two. I see two common things that are, kind of at opposite ends of the spectrum. One is accelerating the club head too quickly at the start of the swing. So there should be a nice sequence order to the downswing. I like to see the lower body go first, followed by the upper body. The arms just come off the chest, and then have the last angle to be released is the angle between the forearm and shaft. Sometimes it's called lag. I want you to maintain lag, and that's probably the number one thing that I see is still people deciding to really apply all effort with all muscles from the top of the swing. So everything moves at once, and the club head kicks out, and that makes it really tough to maximize speed. So I like a drill that I call the Gary Woodland, because he accentuates this. So if you're practicing, if you're trying to get the feel for what it feels like to delay that wrist angle, it's less about holding the angle. Don't do that, but you want to create first a feeling for if you have a wide angle at the start of the downswing. So this is a drill, so reduce the amount of wrist cock, and as you start down, have the sensation that as you move in the downswing, that angle decreases a little bit.
Yeah.
Not from you actively decreasing it, but almost like jackknifing,
Yeah.
And you don't want to, this is kind of the idea is practice an extreme so that maybe you get something in the middle where, you don't have to decrease that angle, but at least it doesn't open up from the start.
Yeah.
And when you're practicing this, you always want to have a little bit of range of motion at the end of your backswing. So you don't want to try and max out how long your backswing is and then try to do this, kind of make a 3/4 backswing and have the feeling like there's some added angle you can incorporate on the way down. You can decrease that angle. So you can kind of feel the hands are initially passive in transition, force them wrists into a bit of a stretch, and then have that club head spring out. And the other end of the spectrum, I see with some good athletes that maybe come from baseball or some other sports, they keep too much speed in their body.
Okay.
Through impact. So especially speed training, they're thinking, right, the more effort, the better. So they continue to try and add speed into their body from the ground all the way through impact. And that prevents them from getting that speed from their body out to the club. An analogy I like to use is if you and I were driving in a car, and you were in the passenger seat and you were going to try to open the door, right? You unlock the door and it's loose, it's sitting there. And just as you try to open the door, if I hit the accelerator, that door is going to fold back in on you. So that's going to make it more challenging. It might seem like I'm helping you, if you were going to try to swing the door out and hit a golf ball, it might seem like I'm helping you by accelerating the car. But I have to accelerate the car, get the speed in the car before you try to get it out to the club. If I try to add speed into the system as you're trying to open the door, that prevents you from doing that. It makes it more challenging. So I can see it feels more effortful for the golfer to continue to try and turn the body as fast as they can, but that makes it difficult to get it out to the club. So for those golfers, I like to have them think that they're slinging the arms and the club off of the body.
Yeah.
Those are two tips, two thoughts.
Amazing. So the lag angle is pretty important in downswing, and then actually getting the speed out in the club. I think the baseball player, I always visualize that, where he like on his lead side where everything kind of stops and then the bat flips out. Is that kind of what you're referring to? That you need to stop something in order to actually send the speed out in the club head?
That's right. Yep. Lots of golfers don't need to think that things are stopping. That could be a bad thought for some. But if you're someone who is continuing to kind of add speed, then that having that thought is helpful.
Amazing. That was two very good tips for the listeners. I hope that some of them will try it out. Awesome, Sasho. I think I don't have any more questions for you. Actually, I think we covered a lot of good stuff here.
Great.
So I just want to say thank you so much for taking your time to be on the podcast, and I hope that all the listeners, they learned a lot of stuff. And then I will also put some links in the show notes where they can see more about this stack system that can do more than just actually generate speed. It can also help with other stuff.
Great, thanks for having me on, Nikolaj.
Thank you so much, Sasha. It was a true pleasure.
Og med det, så nåede vi simpelthen til vejs ende i det her første afsnit af Golftræner Talks i år 2025. Jeg håber, at du synes, det var spændende at lytte med. Jeg håber, du lærte en masse ting, og jeg håber, du blev nysgerrig på farttræning generelt, og eventuelt på det her The Stack System, som altså er en fantastisk metode til at få noget mere fart i golfkøllen. Hvis du er interesseret i at læse mere om det her system her, så hop ind på danskgolfakademi.dk/The Stack System. Jeg smider også lige et link her i noterne til episoden. Og så kan du altså hoppe ind og læse meget mere om, hvordan det her system det helt præcis fungerer, og eventuelt også, hvor du kan anskaffe det henne. Og som lytter til det her podcast her, og som elev hos Dansk Golfakademi, så tilbyder vi altså 10% rabat. Vi har sådan en lille rabatkode til, hvis du er interesseret i at købe det her stack system her. Så det er jo en dejlig mulighed, og en lidt sen julegave, du kan give dig selv, hvis du gerne vil i gang med farttræningen. Og ellers, så vil jeg bare sige tusind tak, fordi du lyttede med. Og vi har planer om at lave flere afsnit med trænere udefra, så det ikke kun er trænere fra Dansk Golfakademi, men vi også hiver nogle andre ind, både danske og udlandske trænere ind i studiet her, og lave nogle episoder sammen med dem. Så jeg håber, du har lyst til at følge med. Og derover så vil jeg også gerne måske spørge dig om en lille ting. Eventuelt lige send et afsnit, eller send et link til nogle af dine venner, som du ved spiller golf, som måske kunne have interesse i at høre det her podcast her. Det vil hjælpe også en hulens masse til at få det ud til flere mennesker, som så giver os endnu bedre muligheder for at lave bedre content, og for at lave bedre afsnit, som forhåbentlig kan hjælpe de danske golfspillere endnu bedre. Tak for nu, og jeg håber, vi lyttes ved igen i næste uge. Husk, vi kommer jo med afsnit hver eneste uge, hele året rundt. Så hop ind i din podcast-app og lige tryk følg på den her podcast her, så sikrer du dig, at du aldrig nogensinde går glip af nogle af vores afsnit. Tak for nu, og god fornøjelse med golftræningen.
Dagens afsnit er sponsoreret og produceret af Dansk Golf Akademi. Danmarks største og førende aktør inden for golftræning og undervisning af spillere på alle niveauer. Besøg danskgolfakademi.dk for at booke din næste træning med vores topprofessionelle trænerteam. Vi har lokationer både i hovedstadsområdet, omkring Aarhus og i Midtjylland.